Hello and welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to TheoryCraft episode 31. That's right, 31. We had episode 30 last week. That was a little bit of a milestone. We had Community Replay Day. We have Slay Day 2000 with the 7 months. We appreciate you, man. And he says, appreciate all the cast and content from you, Neo, and Remo. Thank you, Slay Day. Very much appreciate it. What a good start to the show. What a good start. Yeah, so last week was Community Replay Review for September, as we say in Canada. And that was fun. Thank you for all the submissions. As I said last week, and we'll continue to say throughout the month, you guys can submit replays whenever you want at Carson at backtowarcraft.com, or you can join our Discord, discord.backtowarcraft.com, and submit replays in the TheoryCraft channel there. Next week is going to be, what's next week? Is it Undead Day? Night Elf Day? It's one of those two races. So if you're Undead player or a Night Elf player, you know, it'll be one of those. I can't remember the order of things. I think it's supposed to be Undead next week. I think that's what it is. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. I didn't have an episode ready until about 35 minutes ago. How about interview day? Yeah, that's definitely in the works. Definitely in the works. I stopped doing them every month, so there wasn't sort of pressure to find guests and all that. But definitely there'll be more interviews before the year is up. Absolutely. But yeah, for today, yeah, I didn't have one planned until about the stream went live. I was still watching replays while we had the timer going to go live. But I found some grubby interview. That would be dope. That'd be dope. That is definitely one. Actually, when I first pitched the idea for the show, it had like, oh, you know, maybe eventually I'll try to get Grubby in for an interview. That was part of the whole pitch of the show was, you know, that would be like the end goal of it, would be to get Grubby in. So, you know, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. I don't know if he'd be willing to do it, but maybe there's some compromises that could be made to try to get him in for for an interview. Speaking of replays, though, we did find replays. We did find something, and this is actually going to end up being a fun episode, I think, because, as you guys know, it's Orc Day today. As you guys also maybe know, I'm an Orc player, so I get to, you know, learn a thing or two that I can then take to the ladder for myself. Not just for you guys, but for me as well. The things that I learn here, I get to play and I get to try out. So, you might remember back in March, we had the regional finals, right? Where that was, where I casted with Todd and Remo and Neo, and we had Caleris hosting and all that fun stuff, right? The big tournament. And there we had Happy winning. That's where we had Cruncher winning for America, and that's also where we had Lynn winning for Asia. And he did win, right? God, I hope he did. Yeah, he did. He did. And he came out with this really cool style, the CORSAIR Headhunter style. Now, this was already known about, of course. Grubby and Kiwikaki were playing it. You know, Asians were already playing it to an extent, especially in Orc Mirror and against Criplord. It was really common. You remember back in the days seeing 2 Barracks Headhunter all-ins against the Criplord expansion on things like Echo Isles. It was really common seeing Headhunters, but they weren't played a lot against human unless your name was Kiwikaki. The reason they weren't played a lot against human is because people just thought, you know, defend too good or something like that, or they still had this really cool grunt style. And then in March, when Lynn started playing, and he played a couple of human players, he had this new CORSAIR Headhunter style that was very precise, it was very well thought out, and it ended up just destroying everybody. And that was kind of, my memory might be a little bit foggy, a little bit hazy at these times, but that was sort of the start of when everyone was like, okay, CORSAIR Hunters is no longer this meme strat that we just say, oh, it's just easy on the ladder, but it would never work at the highest level, right? If I remember sort of the thought and the general, what's the word, the zeitgeist that we were in at the time, is that the right usage of that? Probably not. You know, the top level people weren't ever playing CORSAIR Headhunters, and everyone was sort of like, you know, yeah, it'll work for you. It'll work for me, my noob, you know, adept level play. It'll work for me on the ladder, but if I ever had to play, you know, an Infi or someone or a Happy, it would never work. And we've definitely been proven wrong. The haters have been proven wrong at this point because, what is it, 7 months later? March, April, May, June, July, August, September? 7 months? 7 months later, everyone's playing it. Even against Night Elf, we have players like Focus. We have players like Lynn playing Farseer Headhunters against Night Elf even. Something that wasn't thought possible unless, again, your name was Kiwikaki, 6-7 months ago. So really, when we did episode 11 back in early April, late March, it was April 1st was when the episode came out, April Fools. But it wasn't a joke. It wasn't a joke despite it being April Fools. That was sort of the beginning of it all. That was the beginning of it all. And here we are with a little bit of an updated style today. People have been playing consistently Farseer Headhunters against Undead, exclusively almost. In Mir, it's been very, very common. And now against Human, there is a similar playstyle, but better. Because, of course, not just the Orc players have been improving, not just the Orc players have been changing their strategies, but every other race has been. And today we're going to talk specifically again about Orc versus Human. This is the name of today's episode. An updated look at Lynn versus Human, because episode 11 was exclusively Lynn's Farseer Headhunter style against Human, right? So now we're going to take a look at it as though we only saw that episode 11 7 months ago and said, okay, this is how Lynn plays, this is how all the top Orcs play against Human with this, you remember it was 6 Headhunters into 1 Grunt, and then you'd get your Tauren Chieftain at tier 2, you get 2 Shamans off a Spirit Lodge, and you'd expand at 41 supply. Once your expansion was up, you'd get a Bestiary, and you'd start getting Kodos. Lynn would also add in a Witch Doctor, and then he would use the Witch Doctor just to gain map control. But it was really 6 Headhunters, 1 Grunt, 2 Shaman expansion. It was a very precise, clear-cut, 41 supply timing. I get the expansion up, and I try my best to hold the expansion. It was that sort of a style, and there was some cool little nuances, some cool little details, but really those bare bones of, the 6 Headhunter, 1 Grunt, 2 Shaman sort of play was what people played for a really long time. That's what it was back in March. So we're going to assume that that's all we've seen today, right? We're going to assume that that's our most recent look at this matchup. And then we're going to take the knowledge that we already have from that episode 11, and we're going to see what's changed. And we're going to watch the most recent series, the most recent best of 5 between Lynn and Chaemiko from Lynn's perspective in the TP Cup Season 2. Losers Round 1 in the top 8, which was played this week, 5 days ago. Something like that, right? It was played pretty recently. It's the most recent best of 5 series between a top-level Orc and top-level Human. So this is the most up-to-date series we could be watching. So we're just gonna do that. We're gonna be like, we've only seen episode 11, air quotes. That's gonna be our thought experiment, which was 7 months ago, and now we're gonna take that and see what's changed. What's changed in 7 months? What's Lynn doing differently now? Because he was the first one to do this style way back. It feels like way back now. It feels like it's been 20 years because it's been a long year. We all know that. Yeah, no, we're gonna see what changes. We had a couple of questions during that little bit of an intro. Let's see what we got. See what we got. Grubby interview. Yeah. Any interviews coming up, says Glass Candy. Yeah, there's a couple people asking that as well. Yeah, I'll have to figure that out because I've been getting asked that a lot recently, and I'll figure out an interview. It's just, the nice thing about not doing the interviews at times is there's not a lot of scheduling behind it. I can just sort of throw an episode together like I did, and I don't have to, there's not a ton of plan that needs to go behind it. So when it's very busy in life, it's nice to just do these casual episodes. But I'm definitely, it's not as though the interviews are gone. I just haven't done them for a couple months. But we're going to find some guests. There's still plenty of guests that I want to speak to. Just a matter of getting the schedule to work out with them and stuff. We got to do the episodes a little bit earlier. But yes, it's not the end of the interviews. Do not worry. Carson, are you monitoring the Tweak and Foggy Expo style versus Undead that's causing happy trouble at the moment? I haven't seen any of their series recently. Obviously, it would probably be ESL Cups that this is happening most often at. I'll have to check it out because we're going to have Night Elf and Undead Day coming up in the next couple of weeks. So maybe that could be an idea for one of the episodes. Similar to what we're doing today with Lynn against Human, maybe we could do with Foggy against Undead. That could be cool for Night Elf Day. That's definitely something that I'll be considering for either next week or the week after's episode. What's up? Just chilling. Just chilling. Hi, Carson. Why is CL Fast Expo still so OP and Human can do nothing except lose? There are definitely some strong counters to it. There are definitely some strong counters to it. Can't interrupt the band's schedule. The band has been busy. Seems baity? Yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Can do nothing except lose. Nothing except lose. Yeah, that's definitely a thought. Love your sweater, thank you. It's getting a little tattered, a little torn, as all my clothes do, but you know, it's nice. I like it. I like it. It's very comfortable. Very comfortable. Human needs to get gooder. Well, today's not going to be about human. We're going to be watching some human stuff, but we're going to be talking about orc. Been a tough world for musicians. To be fair, it has been a tough world for almost every job, but yeah, musicians do like to say, "Oh, think about us," but it has been. It has been. Yeah, we're busy. In fact, I might actually be leaving right after this to go play a gig. Still up in the air, and then I also get to play tomorrow. Woo! But don't worry, because I'll be doing a lot of Warcraft this weekend as well. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing Gold Cup. On Saturday and Sunday I'm going to be doing the DreamHack Americas qualifiers, and on Monday I'll be back doing ESL Cup. So don't worry, just because I'm going to go doesn't mean I forgot about you guys, all right? There's going to be shows for the next 5 days, right? So let's talk a little bit about what the human did, though. So we had this really nice style from Lynn, right? Again, the 6 headhunters, 1 grunt, 2 shaman, 41 supply clean. You get your expansion up, you get Kodos out, and you pressure the human with a witch doctor or something like that. What did the humans start doing? This is where I ask you guys. It's been 7 months now. The humans have plenty of time to adjust, plenty of times to change up what they were doing to try to counter this. What did the humans start doing differently over these 7 months that warranted a change from a player like Lynn? What are a couple things? Can anyone point out a few things that humans started doing differently over the past half a year to warrant some change from Lynn the change we're going to see today? Not huge changes, not big sweeping changes, but there's going to be slight adjustments. What instrument do I play? I play guitar. More defend, absolutely. That's a huge point, a massive point. Early on, humans were not getting defend pretty much at all against headhunters, which seems counterintuitive, but the idea that humans were going for was, I want to get my tech up very early, I want to go into rifles, and I want to push early, 8-9 minutes, and I can't invest all that lumber, all that gold, and I can't invest into a ton of footmen because I want to get my tech going. So I'm not going to get a lot of footmen. I'm going to cut every corner, and they were losing a lot to the headhunter pressure. So humans started doing a little bit later of techs, 3 farm techs, sometimes 3 farm with tower. They ended up settling on 3 farmed techs without the tower and then getting it after the tech, and then going for defend after about 4, sometimes 5 footmen. But yeah, that was a big adjustment that they made. They were going sometimes very footman heavy, sometimes even 7 footmen at times, but they were going for defend around their 4th footman, which helped a lot against this headhunter pressure. Also, Arcane Tower sooner. Yeah, there was times where human players were entirely even skipping the Arcane Tower to do that 2-farm rifleman tech that we've seen in the past. But now they were pretty much playing very defensively until they got that Arcane Tower up. Yeah, somebody says Panda. Panda is a big thing. Panda is a very big thing. So humans started going, at first I think it was even a Beastmaster, and they'd go for like 6 or 7 foot. And we did an entire episode on that when that did become a thing for a short little while, a couple of weeks. And it was pretty cool. And they'd get early defend and go Beastmaster and really pressure the orc a ton, which forced the orc to do a couple of adjustments, which we'll see in replay 3. Similar adjustments from Lynn. But mostly it's the Panda second. Why is the Panda second good? Well, because you get it earlier from the tavern, 55 seconds earlier, because a second hero takes 55 seconds to come out of the altar, so you get that Panda immediately at tier 2, and then you have it a minute earlier, and you're able to pressure the headhunters. Now, headhunters are very good at damaging things. They can also kite. They do a lot of damage, but they take a lot of damage from AoE. They tend to clump up, so Panda is a pretty good choice, and Panda's also gotten, I believe, in the last 6 months, Panda's gotten buffed. I don't know if it was before or after, but I believe it was during the last 6 months or so that Panda got a buff, and Mountain King also got a nerf. So Panda's become much more popular, and it just so happens that it's also very strong against headhunters specifically. One other small thing, a couple small things. Hey, Carson, I hate to distract you, but what happened to What happened Monday for ESL? I was actually away. I was away for 2 days, so I got back late Tuesday for me. Yeah, but don't worry, I'm back for the rest of the ESLs, probably for the rest of the year. This is the one I had to miss. So 2 other small adjustments. One small adjustment that humans started making is they just generally got better at dealing with the pressure from the Headhunters. There was so many instances early on against the Farseer Headhunter style that humans, we've all seen it, we've all had it happen to us. It still happens on occasion, of course. It's difficult for the humans, not going to lie, where they just sort of died to the Headhunter pressure. But humans have gotten a lot better at knowing when they can commit their footmen in, knowing when to use their water elementals, knowing how to build their bases, knowing when to defend exactly. They just got better overall at defending against the Headhunter pressure. That's one small adjustment humans made as well. And another thing, they also started going 2 Sanctums, much more than rifles, which puts a lot less pressure on the human to get something done early with the rifles, right? Because 2 Sanctum can scale better into the late game. You get earlier casters, you get earlier adept upgrades, you get a wall of breakers, which is better against the Tauren Chieftain, so there's less pressure on the human to get something done if they go for 2 Sanctums. So that's a sort of a group of adjustments that the human has made over the last 6 months that, as I said earlier, warrants a change from the Orc. So that's why Lyn, in today's episode, is going to play not entirely different, but definitely at some points differently from how he did 6 months ago. Because the game is ever changing, but that's what happened from the human side of things to force him to change in this way. Pendagus buff in 1.32.6 2020. Okay. So it was a little bit before this then. It was a little bit before this. But, you know, I think the thing is, when things get buffed, like, let's think about this even, too. So so he got buffed in April as well. Okay, cool. But he wasn't used until maybe 3-4 months ago, right? So even if, you know, even if he was used right after the regional finals in March, it still would have been, you know, the Panda still could have been used back then because he was still strong. But the cool thing is, it takes people a while to realize how good the buffs are at times. And the best example of this is the Headhunters themselves. Headhunters have been this good for a long time. I'm not sure how long. I have a really bad memory for patch notes and when patches come out and stuff like that. But, you know, Headhunters have been strong enough that we could have been using them this consistently in sometimes all 4 matchups for a long while now. Much longer than they have been used this consistently. I think that's the best example. So although Panda's been strong since the Headhunters have been used against human, he wasn't used. He was only discovered to be very good just a few months ago, right? Is there a tournament today? No, this is not a tournament. This is not a tournament. The tournament will start... Well, there's a tournament in like 12 hours or something. All right. I think that's that. Can we jump into the first game? So these games are going to be watching... Hey, Jay, with the 30 euros. Thanks, man. He says, you demand, appreciate you. Well, appreciate you, man. You're always here supporting, always here watching, too. Thanks, Jay. Thank you. It's very much appreciated, man. This first replay, dedicated to you. What's up, Todd? You like my sweater? Yeah, it's very Canadian of me, right? Very Canadian. You ready for some snake oil, Todd? Can I offer you some snake oil? Sip of coffee. So these games we're going to be watching today, similar to when we did the episode of Focus against Happy, from Happy's side of things. It's going to be an entire series. We're going to watch 3 replays from a best of 5. It's going to be from the same series. And this is what I said when we did the Happy vs. Focus episode a few weeks back. They're not going to be perfect games, because when you take just every game from an entire series and you're not cherry picking, okay, this game from this week, this game from the next week, you're going to get weird stuff that happens. You're going to get mistakes that happen. You're going to have imperfect plays. You're going to have plays that make you scratch your head. But that's okay. Because again, I'll say this is the most up-to-date, recent, top-level Orc vs. Human series that the replays are available for. I'm pretty sure just in general, this is the most recent best of 5 we've seen from these 2 top players. So there's going to be some weird stuff. There's going to be some different things, but it's all right. It's all from they're all played in the same series in the same day from the TP Cup Season 2, Round of 8, Losers Round 1. You can look it up. That's what these games are from. This will be Lin versus Chaemiko. Best of 5. We'll watch every game from the best of 5. But spoiler alert, Lin won 3-0. So it's going to be 3 replays we're going to watch today. Make sense? I was like, I'll drop the joke. You must be getting sick of it. Then you bring it up. Nah, it doesn't bother me, man. It doesn't bother me. All right. Any more questions before we jump into replay 1? I don't know. Warcraft 3 audio a little bit loud. The music, I can change that if that's other people think that. Chaemiko. All right. So, replay number 1 will be on Tidehunters. We're not going to do it in order. I woke up to watch all the TP Cup streams. Cool, 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 cool. Only question, but why male models? Do you mean why not female Death Knight and female Demon Hunter? Is that what you're asking me? Because I didn't buy Reforged. I did not buy Reforged. All right, replay number 1. Lin versus Chaemiko on Tidehunters. Here we go. Is everything all right in game? I think everything's all right. Replay 1 says the map correctly. Good, good. Was a little bit rushed to set up today's show, so let me know if there's any errors anywhere. Do I have sound? I do have sound. We're good. All right. No comment. So nothing's going to be too different from episode 11. And I would encourage you guys to go check replay number 3 from episode 11 if you're unfamiliar with the old style from Lin. But I'm going to assume that most everyone's familiar with that 6 Headhunter style that all orcs were doing for the longest of time. And they're also familiar with the Headhunter opener. And that's what we're going to see from Lin. Can I ask what the best, easiest race to learn for beginners? I'll let chat answer that one because that's normally a contentious question. In my opinion, though, I would say Undead. Undead's easy at the beginner level, very, very difficult at the top level, I would say. That's my opinion. So just Farseer Headhunters to start us off. Nothing too different. So if we were watching this in March, we would know what we were going to be seeing. But since we're aliens that have only seen one TheoryCraft episode, that's all we know about Warcraft, right? That's the perspective we're coming at this episode from today. It's going to be something different. Not race, but Farseer Headhunters. Yeah, just play Farseer Headhunters. Yeah, I will say, playing Farseer Headhunters from like an orc player that's played since, you know, at least when Blade Master was meta, it does feel like a different race. Okay, so we're already going to see something different. And of course, it's worth mentioning that Tidehunters was not in the pool back in episode 11 that we're comparing this episode to. It was not in the pool. So this is a new map, but this is something that orc players have been doing more and more recently. They used to, of course, even back as far as the Grunt meta, the Grunt Shaman into Kodo's 34 or 37 supply expansion, the old meta that was about a year ago. Lag? No, I paused the replay. Even back as far as that, orc players were immediately harassing, so we'd expect this Farseer to come out and run straight across the map to our human opponent's base and try to kill peasants, try to put damage on the Archmage, but something that orc players have been doing more recently is creeping level 2. Creeping level 2. And this happens to be a very, very good map to actually creep level 2 on. Another map that's very good to creep level 2 on is Northern Isles, but it's worth noting that orc players back then, I'm saying back then, it was only 6-7 months ago, weren't actually creeping level 2 even on Northern Isles. Maps like Concealed Hill, it's a little bit more difficult to do it. Maps like Amazonia, with particular build orders is difficult to do, but Tidehunters, Northern Isles, Echo Isles, very easy to creep level 2 right off the bat. Any other map? Autumn Leaves is doable.
Forces are under attack.
And look at this, look at this. 1 turtle, 100 experience. 2nd turtle, 100 experience. And you might be asking yourselves, why aren't you pressuring, though? Why aren't you pressuring? Well, before, when we would pressure, much before when we would pressure, going back a year ago, we would have a grunt out. And a grunt, you know, we would have it much earlier. We'd have it at the same time as a Farseer. We could go across the map and pressure the human. So that would be a good reason to pressure, because we'd have a grunt with our Farseer. And then what Lynn was doing before, when he'd have the Headhunters, humans weren't actually going for defend at all. They were caught off guard. They didn't have defend, and they were just trying to fight the Headhunters over and over again. But nowadays, what humans do is they don't commit their footmen in, they keep their Archmage back, and they just put damage on the Headhunters, damage on your Farseer. And then by the time you have 2, 3, 4 Headhunters, your Farseer is too low already to really get some damage done. Another downside of instantly harassing, instead of creeping like Lynn is really, if you run across the map instantly, and this is true on pretty much every map across the board, you're going to be about, not a full level behind, but about 1.8. The human's going to be 1.8, and you're going to be 1.0. So the question then becomes, do I want to be level 2 against level 2? Or do I want to be level 1.0 against level 1.8? And in my opinion, level 2 against level 2 is better. Chain Lightning is very, very useful throughout the game, and it tends to be that once your Tauren Chieftain comes out and starts to solo creep, your Farseer sticks on the level that he is in the early game. So if you're on level 1 in the early game and you don't creep at all, you're kind of stuck on that throughout the mid game. Similar to level 2 or level 3, you're stuck on the level that you managed to get in the first 5 or 6 minutes, because then your Tauren Chieftain is taking all the experience away from the Farseer. So it's good to get level 2 for many, many reasons. What's up, Lotto? How you doing, man? How you doing? Thank you for the 16 months. So now we're both level 2. Now we're both level 2. And this is going to come into handy. And, you know, nothing different. The only thing different so far has been that we've crept to level 2 instead of immediately pressuring. We're still going for Headhunters. We still went for a 2-burrow tech, which sometimes is done differently. But nothing has been done differently. Now, something important is about to start happening, which is a common area where many Orc players make mistakes. Wolf, again, just scouting. You know, the things we're always scouting for. Is there a blacksmith? Right? What's the timing on the Arcane Tower? Is he expanding? Probably not, but if you want some snake oil, he might be. So we're still just scouting. Notice Chaemiko's just running around, not fighting directly, which is something that he did very well this game. He's not engaging into the Headhunters until he has defend. This is kind of an interesting thing that happens. I'm not sure if Lynn does this on purpose, but somehow you can get this Ogre Magi to freeze and then surround it, which doesn't work out in this game, but hey, something to think about in the future. Bloodlust does tend to bug ogres like that, so that they freeze. We've seen a similar trick at the expansion on Autumn Leaves. So something to think about, that is a possibility to sort of pull it like that into freezing. Okay. Another big adjustment. So now defend kicks in. Right, Chaemiko this game, I believe, went 5 footmen into defend. And what do you know? As soon as the defend finishes, a grunt shows up. So before, back in the day, we'd go for 6 Headhunters. That's 7, but 6. And then we go for the 1 grunt. And then we go for 2 shamans, that'd be 41 supply. But what humans started doing is they would just get defend, and then we'd have 6 useless Headhunters, and they would just push into our base, and we wouldn't be able to defend ourselves. Because we'd have 6 Headhunters. We'd have 6 Headhunters that just can't even kill a single footman. Because they're actually getting defend, and they're getting more than just 4 footmen. We're seeing here Chaemiko's getting 6 footmen. He might even end up getting 7. So getting 6 Headhunters, although it helps us, I guess, to creep at times, it really ends up being no better to get 6 Headhunters than to get 4, and then to get that first grunt earlier, which is what Lynn's doing this game. And notice the timing of this first grunt. It just showed up, right when we paused the replay, and defend just kicked in. So now we have this grunt, we have 2 wolves, and we have our Farseer, and the Headhunters are just going to run away. Well, this is our army that helps deal with the defend. Whereas back in the day, we may have not have this grunt, and we'd have 2 more Headhunters. What would we do? Our Farseer can't kill all these on his own, but the 1 grunt helps out a lot, and he's actually going to get a 2nd grunt early as well. If we notice the supply, he's got just enough supply to get 1 more grunt, and he's getting his 41 supply burrows soon. So this is another big adjustment that Orcs started to make. 4 Headhunters into 1 grunt. The 1 grunt times well with when the defend finishes, so we can deal with the footies pretty easily. What else helps to deal with the footies very easily? The soon-to-be 6 defensive footmen. Oh, having level 2 on our Farseer, having Chain Lightning. Wow, it's incredible. How many on lumber? 7. 7 always on lumber, unless you're doing a very weird build, which I'll bring up later. But pretty much always 7. Now, here's a very important thing that Lynn is going to do here. And this is what I mentioned that Orcs always make mistakes with in this game. Let's notice the positioning of the Headhunters. Thanks, Deathly God. Thanks, Deathly God. There's something very important happening with the Headhunters right now. Now, the Headhunters are obviously cannot defend themselves against the footmen. They obviously cannot. And the Grunt can obviously not solo all these footmen himself, right? Like, the Grunt is useful with the Farseer to help start to chip down these footmen, but neither side of this army can really deal with the footmen on their own. So there's a world in which you panic, and this is what a lot of Orc players do. Orc players, are you listening? This is what a lot of you guys do, including myself. I've lost many games like this. Many games. You ready for what you guys do? Now, you're in this position. Defend just popped. You have a group of Headhunters, X amount. Maybe you have 6, 5, 4. Okay? What do? Now, they have their whole army right here. They're getting chased by defend footmen. They run, they run, they run, they run, they run literally back here into the back of their base. What's up, Nahiro? Like my fashion. They run right back here. They panic and they run right to the back of their base. Now, what happens? And this is normally a safe haven for Orc players. What do we have? We have burrows. Ooh, we have burrows. We have a shop. That's about it, right? But we have burrows and we have a shop. Burrows are normally... Whoops, I hit my mic. Burrows are normally a very, very helpful tool to defend. What aren't they useful against, though? Well, pretty much defend footmen. So we run into the back of our base with our Headhunters. We get chased by defend footmen. We burrow up, and then the footmen end up chasing the Headhunters as far as they possibly can go, are taking close to no damage from the burrows, and we end up actually losing Headhunters because we get trapped in the back of our base with our Headhunters. So one very important thing that Lynn is doing is, although he can't actually directly win this engagement right now, what he's not doing is running towards his base. He's trying his best to pull the human away from his base with the Headhunters. So yes, you can chase my Headhunters and maybe eventually you can kill them, but you're going to be chasing them this direction, and there's going to be constant space for them to run around the map. Whereas if we were to directly retreat into the most common place to directly retreat, we would actually end up losing more than otherwise if we had run to the other side of the map. So that's something that Lynn's going to do that is very, very crucial at this stage in the game, because he can't actually win this fight. All he can do is delay until he has, you know, maybe a Torn Chieftain, maybe until he has the second Grunt he's about to build. It's very, very important. So watch how he does this. The Headhunters are above. The Headhunters are doing what they can, but as soon as they start to get chased, they'll just run away. Look, they just run away. Not running towards Lynn's base, running away from it. Look at this. And they're just out of there. They're just dipping. You might also be thinking, wow, Headhunters seem useless then. It's only 5 minutes in the game already, we can't use them. What they're very useful for is later in the fights and also for creeping, which is why we bother to go for Headhunters at all. See, and the Grunt and the Wolves and the Farseer are just chipping away while the Footmen try to kill the Headhunters.
Players' forces are under attack.
And a second at tier 2. And we're just continuously running away from our base when possible. Especially when the Panda is out. Now our tier 2 is going to be done. Getting Torn Chieftain, same as ever. We're going to get Spirit Lodge, same as ever. Shamans are still essential. Lynn gets a second Grunt here. This is something that some Orcs don't do. This early, at least. Sometimes Orcs will just get 4 Headhunters and a single Grunt, and then more focus on units from their Spirit Lodge and soon to be the Bestiary. But in this situation, I think the reason why Lin gets a second grunt very early is because he really hasn't killed any footmen yet. I think he killed one footman, but he's still up against a ton of footmen, so he kind of needs more meat to handle this pressure that is coming his way. Right? Because it's still very difficult to deal with these, and it's even more difficult now there's a panda on the field. So the second grunt is going to help out a ton, not just against the footmen, but you can actually think of grunts as being very good against heroes as well. Because if we look at hero armor, heroes take reduced damage from piercing, magic, siege, and spells. Now, what does that not say? It doesn't say, where's the grunt? It doesn't say normal damage. So normal damage is actually quite good against heroes. So grunts are very good at dealing with this pressure. They're also nice against the footmen because headhunters aren't. Right? So it's good to get a second grunt here because the footmen and the panda are still very healthy, which is why he does that.
Under attack.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right, Skyrim. One grunt gets surrounded, but what do you know? We have chain lightning, and we got 2 grunts and wolves. We can actually fight the footmen now, at last. It's incredible. One grunt's taking some pressure, and in this case, he's going to run to the back of his base, but what he's not doing, he's not running the headhunters to the back of the base. Look at these headhunters. Look where they are. They're not hiding back here. They would probably be dove for? Divin for? They'd be dived for? And they would be killed. So they're running over here, running around. He's also gotten, I believe, troll regen. Still waiting to get brute strength. And bestiary and spirit lodge coming up. This is another adjustment that we'll talk about in a second, but look how easily we now can deal with the footmen. With the grunt, with the chain lightning. With the 2 grunts and the chain lightning even. Okay, so we've now officially sort of dealt with the early footman pressure. That's the first sort of stepping stone we need to... Dived is correct in that context. Thank you. So this is the first hurdle we've gotten over. Now, there's another difference. So there's been 3 key differences so far this game. The first was we didn't immediately harass, we crept level 2. This is map dependent, whether we creep level 2 or not, but it's very useful. We saw the chain lightning coming really in handy, and it's going to come in handy throughout this entire game, so creeping level 2. Getting a grunt after our 4th headhunter to deal with that defend timing, and then even a second grunt because the footmen are... They were pretty healthy. The third big difference this game, though, from the past style of CORSAIR headhunters, is we're getting a very early bestiary. A very early bestiary. Now, what an early bestiary does on the negative side of things is it delays our expansion. It's a big investment, gold and lumber-wise, not just for the bestiary itself, but for, obviously, the units that we build from the bestiary. Now we have 3 production buildings, not just 2. So it's more difficult to get an expansion up. It also will have a delayed expansion if that's what we're going for. Whereas before, remember, it was either way back in the day, it was this 34 supply grunt shaman expansion. We get our bestiary and we get a single code out and then expand. That was way back in the day, over a year ago. And then the headhunter style was we'd get 6 headhunters, a grunt, and 2 shaman at 41 supply. Without a 4th burrow, we would expand. So in the past, the expansion timings were both very, very clean. There was a precise timing that we get it at, and we'd ideally get it very, very early, the expansion, as early as possible. Whereas nowadays, what Lin seems to be doing is he's delaying the expansion and sacrificing that to get a strong army that can pressure on the map more easily. And the bestiary is a crucial part of that. So that's another big adjustment. We're going to talk more about this bestiary later and what it does for Lin. And more about the expansion later as well. That's going to be a very important part of this game for Lin. So bestiary, another slight adjustment.
A player's forces are under attack.
Love when he says hurdle. You know me. Turtle, turtle. What about that? You like turtle? Okay, and Lin manages to get out of this early game without losing any headhunters, which is nice because now he can creep his Tauren Chieftain up. And remember earlier when I said the level that we get our Farseer at in this early game stage before the Tauren Chieftain is out is generally the level we stay at? Well, what do you know? We got level 2. Now we want to solo creep this Tauren Chieftain. Obviously, the Tauren Chieftain is the carry from these 2 heroes, just like the Panda is the carry between the Panda and the Archmage. So you're always going to prioritize creeping on the Panda or the Tauren Chieftain. So what do you know? Our Farseer is level 2. It'll stay there, but at least we have Chain Lightning now. At least we have Chain Lightning now. Whereas if we didn't creep to level 2, yes, we would have killed some footmen. Maybe we would have been 1.5, 1.6 off the harass and footman kills. But we wouldn't have had Chain Lightning for a very long time. Probably until the first big army fight would we not have had Chain Lightning. So that's what's nice about creeping in the early game. So we're not stuck on that level 1. And now we're going to solo creep the Tauren Chieftain, just like in days of old. Shaman's coming out. Troll regen and brute strength, so now he's getting both of these. Say all the headhunters were very, very healthy. Maybe he gets brute strength first and then troll regen, but like, look how much value he's going to get out of this. He's crucially also not using salves for the headhunters. Even if these headhunters were probably 50 health, he probably wouldn't even use a salve. He probably would just let troll regen do its work. Unless in the extreme case where like you're being pressured still and they're all very low. But at all costs, you don't want to, like, maybe there's a world in which some orc players would just use 3 salves on these headhunters before troll regen was done. That's 100 gold. That's almost a headhunter itself. So yeah, getting the value from troll regen is very, very nice, and not using salves early on for the headhunters is great. And then brute strength after that for the grunts, of course. And just like before, we're going to creep with the Tauren Chieftain while pressuring with the CORSAIR. The only difference now is that we can Chain Lightning last hit stuff, whereas we couldn't really do that before, because we were always level 1. We were always level 1. So the Chain Lightning is going to come into play. In fact, it's going to come into play right now. Meanwhile, the Tauren Chieftain just creeping. And what do you know? Chain Lightning. Value. We stopped Panda from creeping entirely. Alright? So, in the past, we probably would have already had an expansion coming up. Now, this expansion would have been very early, right? We would have crept the expo and we would have immediately put it down. Notice Lynn's at 40 supply. He would be at 41 if it was the old build order, you know. And he would have expanded even earlier if it was the old Grunt Shaman build order. So we would already be expanding at this stage. What does an expansion at this stage do? Well, we get it very early, but there's still an opportunity where, not necessarily in this game, but in a game where the human's in a better position, they could just run straight across and cancel it. They could just run straight across and cancel it. Say, like, his Panda was healthy, his Archmage was healthy, and he still had those footmen left over, right? He could very easily run over and just cancel the expansion, because we haven't really done anything to help secure the expansion. So what Lynn's going to do in this game, the way he expands, and the way he's been expanding recently, I've seen people put this like, oh, he harasses on level 2 Tauren Chieftain. I've heard people say that. But it's not always that Lynn harasses on level 2 Tauren Chieftain to get the expansion up. He almost sort of expands like a Night Elf. That's something I heard Hitman say, and I thought it was a really good way to put it. Lynn started expanding like a Night Elf. Now, he didn't start expanding like a human. How does a human expand? A human expands at a very precise timing, either in the early game or in the mid game. Think about Human Mirror. When do you expand in Human Mirror? Will you creep one big camp at tier 2, and then you run straight over to your expansion and expand at around 3 priests. 3 priests with Adept on the way. How do you expand as a human in the early game? Oh, you either do the 3 farm expansion, or you creep 2 camps and you go to your expansion and expo with 4 farms. Right? There's very precise timings for when human expands. How does Night Elf expand against Undead? How do they do it? There's not a precise timing. It's pretty much, when is my expansion least likely to get canceled? When do I know that his Death Knight and his ghouls are out of position as a Night Elf against Undead, for instance? When do I know that both of those things are out of position? When can I most safely secure the expansion? And when can I make a play that allows me to get my expansion up completely uncancelled? So there's not a precise timing for it so much as when's the most, like, there's a window, there's a 2-minute window, a 2.5-minute window. Maybe less than that, maybe even a minute window. But it's not like I'm not going to force an expansion when there's still an opportunity for it to be canceled, because it's more important for me to get the expansion up later than to attempt to get it up earlier and have it canceled. So that's what Lynn, I think, has started to do a little bit more. And maybe he wouldn't put it in those sorts of words. But it's less about precision and more about maybe cleanliness, shall we say. And that's how he's going to take an expansion in this game. And I'm sure the more Lynn games we see in the future, we'll get a more clear picture of this. We'll have a bigger sample size. But, I mean, there was 1 series to go off of, so it's not always going to be perfect. But let's notice, he's just pressured the Archmage to very low health. He's stolen the last hit. He sees the entire army here. He's creeping with his Tauren Chieftain close by. The peon's going across, but this peon doesn't have to just build the expansion right now, right? The peon's going there. It can start building whenever. It can start building whenever. But let's look at where the Farseer is. The TC's getting one more camp. Now, this is a world... If our expansion was building, sure, Chaemiko could just run across and cancel it. Even though he's low, he's got a Town Portal, he's got a Panda to Breath of Fire. He could, in theory, just cancel this expansion. Right? He could. He doesn't have the army to win a fight, but you always have the army to cancel an expansion. Orcs do it with a Blade Master all the time. A solo Blade Master. So it's creeping up. This is where having Headhunters is very handy. He's going to build it because he sees Chaemiko creeping, and his TC is going to run straight across and force a fight now. And there's no way Chaemiko would be able to cancel this expansion. In fact, he has to Town Portal away. Oh, thank you. Thanks, SNS, for setting that. So there's no way the expansion could now be canceled. And this is a position where we could ask a question. With this sort of idea in mind of let's not give the human any opportunity to stop this expansion. It doesn't matter if we do anything else, so long as we get this expansion up. Like, what is a good play with that in mind? Now, Lyn isn't going to do this. He's going to do something else that is actually better. But if we were to just look at, like, the simplest possible way, like, what would be the best play if we just wanted to keep it simple and continue with this idea here? In the position we're in. We just forced the human to Town Portal. Our expansion's up. Scouted, but it's by an illusion. We know it's an illusion. We just saw the Panda here. So we know that he's in his base. Right here. We know we just got right here. So if he wanted to, for instance, cancel our expansion, he could go up here, and he could go all the way around, right? And he could cancel it. Or he could TP out and run straight across the map and cancel it. Very unlikely. Or when he TPs, he could creep this, or when he TPs, he could creep this. Those are sort of the four things that he could do. The least likely would probably be for him to Town Portal and immediately run straight to where he just Town Portaled from, and then try to cancel our expansion, which he knows is coming up. But on this note, a safe play from, like, say, from me being a bad orc player, and I don't have the precision to know, can I sneak in an extra camp? Do I not have to, is there any chance for him to cancel this expansion? The safest play here for Lyn would probably just to be go to the base and not fight in the base, but just go to the base and just sit right here. Now, we're not creeping, he's not creeping, but it doesn't matter because all that's important is for us to get the expansion up that isn't, for it to not get canceled. So literally the safest play, the simplest play, the easiest play for Lyn to do right here would be just to sit right here. As soon as Chaemiko leaves his base, we just attack the shop. If he tries to engage into us, we just run away and run around here. That's the safest way for us to play it. Lyn isn't going to do this. He's going to do actually something better. But for simplicity's sake, that is something that Lyn could do here that would actually put him in a big lead because his expansion would still be safe.
A town is under siege.
But remembering what the possibilities for the human are, he could run straight across the map, not likely. He could come up here and run across the map, which we're covering. Or he could more likely creep this or this.
A player's forces are under attack.
So Lyn is sort of getting an intermediate camp when he knows that it's very unlikely for Chaemiko to just run straight cross map and cancel his expo. He's getting one camp, and then he's going to go and make sure that Chaemiko has no opportunity to cancel it. And he get one camp. And what do you know? He's running across the map to scout if the army happens to be running across. And he's also going to secure the heal scrolls at the same time. And then the army goes towards the main base. He doesn't want to fight here, right? Let's not think of this as we're pushing to win the game here. We're only pushing, again, to secure this expansion. That's all we're doing. Because look how Lyn plays this here. Now let's pause. Could we win this fight looking at the humans' army with the map hack that we do have as the replay watcher? We could win this fight. We don't know that Lyn has the info that he knows that he could win this fight, but it doesn't matter whether we could win this fight or not. we can still do exactly what Lin's doing right now. Because we're against a panda, because there's no Sorks on the field, because we probably have a speed scroll. What do you know? We do. Do we even have 2? Not 2 yet, but we'd love to have 2. This is a play that will always work regardless of what the position in the game we are, as long as we have some semblance of an army. What do you know? He just runs away. He just runs away. Now, Chaemiko does a really nice play here. Pretty much the only thing he could do given the situation, and Lin just reacts perfectly. He reacts perfectly without knowing this is happening. So 2 footmen go across. Now they have defend, so even if there's a burrow, even if there's a tower, these footmen could stop mining almost entirely. And what Lin is going to do consistently throughout this game is he's just going to send, every time his wolves are off cooldown, he's not going to send them to scout, he's not going to send them in to attack peasants for no reason. He's not going to use them in the fight just so they can be dispelled or stolen by the breakers. He's going to consistently use them just to send back to his expansion in case there's some sort of a footman run by, maybe there's a water elemental run by, whatever. You know, he's going to constantly send wolves back just to deal with the threat, because here he doesn't actually know footmen are going. But he has an idea that maybe a unit's been split off to somehow harass the expansion. So he's going to do this with wolves all the time. And with his main army, what is he going to do? He's just going to continue buying time, continue poking, but never actually taking a direct fight. Never taking direct. Could he win this fight? Yes, he could win this fight right now. Is he going to take the fight? No. Wolves go back to deal with the footmen. Army just runs away. Army just runs away. Now, I also wanted to point this out. I did kind of miss my timing to talk about it, but let's talk about it regardless. The bestiary came up. You might be asking, what do I get from the bestiary? Different orcs have different philosophies on what to do with this bestiary. For instance, Hitman always gets, I don't want to say always, but he does often get a Wind Rider as soon as this finishes. What Lin does is he gets Ensnare first as soon as it finishes, and then he gets a Raider, then he gets a Wind Rider, then he gets a Kodo. That's the order of things. So we'll have 1 Raider and Wind Rider. I do think the Wind Rider first is good, because what the Wind Rider allows you to do is if you do want to speed scroll in here and like trade, you can easily kill a couple of casters and then get out. Right? Whereas the Kodo isn't too useful until there's a bunch of breakers to win the fight. And the Raider isn't too useful if you're only going for casters. You don't necessarily need a Raider to kill casters. You need Raiders to like kill breakers, for instance, or to attack the buildings. But a Wind Rider is really good at if I want to run in here and take a really short fight, kill a couple of priests and get out, which is why I think getting a Wind Rider early from this bestiary, right away in fact, is really strong. But Lin does it in a different order. Totally fine. He's Lin. He gets Ensnare, Raider, Wind Rider, and then a Kodo out of the bestiary. Back in his base, he's gotten his 61 supply burrow. This expansion will give him 72 supply.
A player's forces are under attack.
Wives are also very good for vision here. That's a great point. Yeah, they're very good for vision if you're running around like this. Especially if it's like nighttime, you can put it above here. You can get vision. Right? So the expansion's up. He's pulling peons. The wolves are dealing with the footmen. He's gotten the heal scroll, the potion of vulnerability. This all just plays into him maintaining map control. Notice he's not like, there's so much value to be gained, because like right now, Lin has map control. He's had map control since he forced that town portal at the shop, right? He objectively has had map control. Chaemiko's been very passive. Most often when you get map control on a map like Tidehunters, you just run to the bottom. I'll show you what I'm talking about. You run down here, because look at all the creep camps. Whoa, look at all these. These are all consumables. Tons of experience, right? This one's gone, but that's normally what you do. But notice what Lin's been doing. He's just been controlling the map, controlling the game, running around here, ensnaring. He hasn't been running down here to like, oh, I can get all the experience on the map. He's been playing very, very aggressively defensive, maybe is a way you could put it. And the idea of that is to secure the expansion, but you're also securing map control around the shop so that you can get the heal scrolls. This comes into play on Northern Isles, Tidehunters, and Echo Isles mostly, but also on maps like Autumn Leaves where the shops are very far apart. This might come into play. Concealed Hill, the shops are very far apart. This might come into play. So he's controlling the map, and he's not necessarily going for big creep camps. He's just waiting for Chaemiko to creep, and then pressuring. Waiting for Chaemiko to run far away from his base, like he did earlier for this camp, and then pressuring the main base. And he's always just controlling the map, and it doesn't even matter what his hero levels are. He's got 3-3, but as long as he's even or above the humans' heroes, he's happy. If it's level 2 Panda versus level 2 Tauren Chieftain, that's totally fine, because at the end of the day, this is our win condition. These are our win condition. So as long as we're controlling the map to secure these two things, it doesn't matter if we're getting a lot of creeps. We can get those later. A
player's forces are under attack.
The expansion gets up, and Lin's going to immediately break upkeep. He already had a little bit previous. He had gotten one more grunt. One more grunt. But he's going to, as soon as the expansion's up and mining, Kodo, Grunt, Shaman, immediately to 59 supply. This first round of production is something that Chaemiko could also do. Chaemiko has close to enough gold to go breaker rifle if he wanted. He's almost got that bank. But what's going to be different for Lin is he's going to actually have another round of production after that, and then another round. So no matter what, even if Chaemiko breaks upkeep right away, right here, and tries to keep the supply even, Lin's always going to be one full cycle ahead. He's probably going to end up at 10 supply ahead. And in fact, in this game, he's actually going to end up 20 supply ahead. And how has he done this? How has he ended up in this big of a supply advantage? Well, he's soon to have that. He just made sure this expansion was safe. That's it. Just made sure the expansion was safe. Made sure to continuously threaten the base, threaten the creep jack, all that. That's all he's done to get in this position. Is he going to fight here? Could he maybe do damage here? Sure, maybe. Does he need to? No. He doesn't need to. His expansion's mining. He's getting a supply advantage. He's controlling the shop for the heal scrolls if he wants. Although I do think the heal scroll... second one should be available soon. Oh, it actually got purchased by the Panda earlier. Thank you. Thank you. These footmen have been very annoying, but the wolves have been continuously chasing them. You imagine if the wolves were not sent back, they would be attacking these peons the entire time.
A player's forces are under attack.
And now, what do you know? Chaemiko's actually the one to be able to first get these creep camps at the bottom, but it doesn't matter, because look at the supplies. That's all that matters here. As long as we don't have level 1-1 against level 5-5, whatever, or 1-1 against 3-3, that would be a disaster. The supply is all that matters as long as the heroes are within a reasonable difference of each other. And now it's 66 against 54. And we have double heal scroll. And Lin hasn't really done anything magnificent. All that's been really good from him this game, which is the most difficult thing to do in this game, to be fair, is just his map movement. Let's pause and take a look at his army. He's still got the 4 headhunters from the early game. He hasn't built any more headhunters than 4. He got a second Wind Rider after getting his Kodo. Remember, Ensnare, Raider, Wind Rider, Kodo, and then second Wind Rider. Or did he get a second Kodo? I think he got a second Wind Rider and then another Kodo. Yeah. And he's just been continuously building grunts, continuously building shamans as well behind this. Right? So he's not afraid to produce off all 3. Sometimes you might hear people say, like, oh, you shouldn't build too many grunts, past a certain stage. But in this case, Lin is just worried about, let's get the supply advantage. Let's produce off all 3 buildings. Every time I produce, like, a Wind Rider, a grunt and a shaman, a Kodo, a grunt and a shaman, what do you know? That's 9 supply I'm going up. 9 supply, 9 supply, 9 supply. Every 30 seconds, you're getting a 9 supply advantage until you end up... He's only had this expansion mining for, what? 3 minutes... And we're already 70 supply against 56. And this fight, obviously, if we were here, if we were in Lin's position, and we had to fight Chaemiko, do you think we'd win? You think you guys would win in this position? Now, I don't want to say I would definitely win, but I think a lot of people could probably win right here in this fight. I think a lot of people could probably win No? Yeah, it'd probably be pretty difficult against Chaemiko. Let's say against, like, maybe one tier below Chaemiko, probably, right?
Players' forces are under attack.
I mean, we got 2 heal scrolls, we got 20 supply advantage. We'd win. Pog! It's getting to this position that's difficult. It's getting to this position. And by the way, the panda gets away, but Lyn even had dust prepared for this. Look at this guy. What a game. What a game from Lyn here. Crazy. 36 against 69. He didn't lose a unit. He didn't, in fact, lose a unit this entire game. He's still got 4 headers. He hasn't lost a unit the whole game. And there's replay 1. He didn't lose a unit the entire game. And where could he have lost units? In the early game for sure. But of course, that's why we made those adjustments. So what are some things that Lyn is doing differently now from what he was doing 7 months ago? And this first replay is the best example of all these things. We're going to watch the second and third replay from this series as well, which the third replay is going to get a whole lot different, but the second replay is also going to be a bit different. But there's some differences. Let's talk about them. Yeah, it was a flawless victory. Write that down. Don't lose any units. Okay, got it. Oh, did he glass cannons? I didn't realize that. Yeah. So the first big adjustment he made was he crept level 2. Which is something he didn't do too often in the past. And that's not something he'll always do. He's not going to always creep level 2. But it's much more common. And we saw how nice Chain Lightning was to deal with the Defended Footman. He got a Grunt after 4 Headhunters. Or let's just say a Grunt by the time you think the Defend Footmans are going to be pressuring you. You want the Grunt just to deal with the Defended Footy pressure. That's what you want the early Grunt for. And then later on you transition into that. Right? What did he get? He got an early Beast. Why does he get the early Beast? Well, we noticed how much map control he had with that early Raider, with the early Wind Rider. You can't have that much map presence if you don't have these early bestiary units, because just the threat of having a Wind Rider to like speed scroll in and kill units, the threat of having a snare, the threat of having an early Kodo to devour like the first rifle, the second rifle, that threat is way too valuable to skip out on. And that's how he's able to maintain so much map control. An early Beast, he delayed the expansion, but he didn't delay it with a specific timing in mind. He just delays it. I don't want to say indefinitely, but he delays it until he's in a position in which he can secure map control and have a hold on it so that the expansion is entirely safe. But if human expand first, what adjustment should I do? You mean a tier 2 expansion or a tier 1 expansion? And this is, the map movement stuff that Lyn was doing was something similar to what he was doing in the past. But he didn't have as strong of an army. And then he was just delaying the fight. Fight until Expo up. He just delayed the fight until the Expo was up, and he just broke upkeep immediately. Tier 1. If the human tier 1 expands, you can continue to produce headhunters, and then you can get like a panda at tier 2, something like that. There's not really like a clear-cut response from the Orc players. There's a few different responses from Orc players. Some go TC second and go Shockwave. Some go Panda second. Some go, 2 Beast Wind Riders. There's a lot of different responses from Orcs against Tier 1 expansions. There was a replay of Lyn beating Chaemiko. Autumn Leaves. If you look up Lyn versus Chaemiko on Autumn Leaves recently, that's where Lyn beats him when he goes for a fast expansion. You can check out that replay. And he just delayed. And it seems like just don't lose any units forehead, but Lyn played in such a way where the whole strategy revolved around him not losing units, because the creeping level 2, what does creeping level 2 do? Well, you don't take a lot of damage trading on your Farseer headrunners in the early game because you're creeping. So you're giving the human space, but in doing that, you're conserving the health on your Farseer and Headhunter till later. And then by the time you're actually engaging into the human, you already have 2 or 3 headhunters, right? So you're not investing all that health early, so you're healthier later on, so you're less likely to lose units. You also have chain lightning, so you can win the fights better. You get the grunt, so you can deal with the defend, so again, you're less likely to lose units. Also helps you against the panda. He did that cool move where his headhunters were always running away from the base, never into the base. Again, less likely to lose units because you're not hiding in the back of your base. You're not giving the human an opportunity to just dive and kill those headhunters and cancel your buildings. Less likely to lose units. You're getting an early bestiary so that you have a stronger army early on. Less likely to lose units because your army is stronger. You're delaying the expansion so that you can get more map control. Less likely to lose units. And you're delaying. You're not actually taking the fight. You're just running around, speed scrolling away. You know, you're purging water elementals, you're pressuring, you're threatening to fight, you're threatening to push the base, but you never actually do it. Less likely to lose units. Now, this becomes a little bit more difficult if there's a Mountain King, of course, because you can Stormbolt units and you can lose some stuff, yes. But Panda overall is better, so they're sacrificing something to go Mountain King as well. And if they have a Panda, where's their catch? If you have a speed scroll against a Panda, there's actually no real reason you should lose any units. Unless you take too much damage on a headhunter early game. So that's really what this all revolves around. So that makes sense. So any questions before we jump into replay number 2? Like I said, that's the best replay. That's a very good replay from Lynn. The next one's not going to be so straightforward. It's also going to be a little bit, there's going to be some different things that Lynn does, and there's going to be some different things Lynn does, especially in replay 3, but are there any questions about that? Are there any questions? Yeah, the important thing to remember is that there's really, the way this matchup currently works is Orc has the stronger army a lot of the time. There's a few timings where the human has the ability to do damage and pressure, and it's up to the Orc to not make a mistake of overextending at those timings. For instance, when the Panda first comes out, when Defend first gets online, those are a couple positions where the Orc can very easily commit in for too long and lose headhunters, and then the game just snowballs out of control. So it's very important to know when the human is strong so that you can play accordingly. But really, a lot of the time, the Orc is going to be stronger, especially if you can secure that expansion, because you're just always going to have the supply advantage. All right. Replay number 2 will be, I think, game 3 from this series. Maybe it'll be maybe it's game 1 from this series, but because Tidehunters, I think, was game 3. We're not doing it in order. But last Refuge, Lynn versus Chaemiko. Let's see what he does on this map. That's a little bit different. Loading it up. Hey, how you doing, Peanut Butter Pancakes? Good to see you, man. How you doing? Entire pack of Chips Ahoy. I gotta say, I'm not a big fan of Chips Ahoy. I mean, I'll eat them. I'm more of an Oreo guy, though. More of an Oreo guy. Okay, here's replay number 2. So we're not going to see too many things different build order-wise. Lynn's going to do a bit of a different order of units, and we'll talk about why I think he does that. Again, I don't know 100% why he does these things. Like, I don't know why he gets a Raider before the first Wind Rider. I don't know why he got 2 grunts instead of 1 grunt early last game. Right? These are small things that change. Lynn plays a very fluid style when it comes to what units he builds when. So I can only speculate as to why he's building these certain units at this certain time in the game, but I'll try to speculate regardless. I'm just saying I might be wrong. Could always be wrong. We could be wrong about everything. We could be in a simulation. Earth could be flat. We could all be wrong. You never know. Or should I say the Earth could be round? Get it? Chaemiko's in our boxing bag? Yeah, 100%. So this peon, we've talked about this a million times, but I'll go over it. I won't say one last time. One more time, how about? This peon is just to come to the mercenary camp. This has been done for a long, long, long time. This has been done for years now. Maybe 2 years. I don't want to say years, but it might have been 2 years, maybe a year and a half. But this peon's just here to deny this first footman from being able to drag the mercenary camp out so that you can grab the priest. The priest is very good at dealing with the Farseer's wolves, so the peon just blocks the footman from ever being able to pull the rock golem out. Of course, you can't purchase the priest when the rock golem's still here, because he'll just own you. He'll just own you. Right, so that's what this peon's for. This is nothing new. This is nothing crazy. This is old faithful, old standard. Still 2 burrows, still Farseer Headhunters opener. And we'll just replace this peon. Still 7 on lumber. We'll just replace this because he's bound to die. Now, Lynn's also going to creep here. This isn't too new on Last Refuge, but you imagine a world in which Lynn runs straight across the map. This is something he was doing with Farseer Headhunters before. He ends up at the base, but Chaemiko's already crept this entire camp, and there's a chance he's already pulled this if he's done it very efficiently and started creeping this. So again, you're going to be level 1 against level 1.8, level 1.9. You're going to be in his base, but you're going to be stuck at about a full level disadvantage in the early game, because all Chaemiko has to do is squeeze one little creep out or kill one headhunter, and he'll be level 2, and you'll be on pretty much 0 experience if you immediately harass. So this isn't a new creep route from Lynn. This isn't something that is unheard of in the past, but he's going to creep again.
A player's forces
The priest
are
right
under
away.
attack.
Can you imagine what would happen if the Earth was round? Yeah, we'd just be dizzy all the time. It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. It's supposed to be spinning. It's crazy talk. This isn't going to be the best early game by any means from Chaemiko, but there's also going to be a slight mistake from Lynn right away. Remember, we mentioned we don't want to commit a bunch of health right away. We want to wait, ideally, until we have 2 or 3 headhunters, but oopsies, we get a little bit surrounded. But still, at least the headhunters are healthy. And Chaemiko also, most often humans won't actually be fighting into the headhunters once there's a couple out before they have defend, but because he put so much damage on the Farseer, we're kind of in weird territory here, right? This is a little bit of a weird early game, because most often, Orc players don't always get their Farseer trapped there. That was just a mistake from Lynn, a little bit of a misposition. But he's going to get the shop up. So this early game ends up being a little bit weird. But still, just going to build some headhunters. Worth noting that actually, has this happened yet? Has this happened yet? Yeah, so 2 footmen actually died to the creeps. I don't know where the first one died. I don't think that's the footman corpse. I think that's the priest corpse. But yeah, 1 footman died to this camp, and another footman got ensnared and died to this camp. So actually, Lynn doesn't know it quite yet, but Chaemiko's actually lost 2 footmen already. That Lynn isn't aware of. He might be able to get a count eventually and be like, oh yeah, he's got less footmen than he should have. But yeah, Chaemiko has already lost 2 footmen, which is quite a big loss, which means that defend footman power spike when the first grunt comes out is going to be less effective, right? Because there's less defended footmen.
Forces are under attack.
This one's also low. So this is what happens when the human overcommits their footmen in the early game. This is why defend wasn't too effective in the past, but humans got a lot better at not committing in footman lives like this until they had defend online. That's a big mistake that Chaemiko made this game. Now he's going to have no map presence. But again, Lynn's just going to creep level 2. And he's actually, I think for this reason, going to actually go into a 5th headhunter this game. So before he got that first grunt, this would have been the first grunt right now. But remember, Chaemiko last game also had 5 defended footmen in about 30 seconds from now. So this first grunt would have helped with that defense spike. Whereas now, because the footmen are all damaged or dead, and Lynn at least knows that they're all severely damaged, he knows he might be able to squeeze out a 5th headhunter instead of getting that grunt earlier, and he'll just have a better time creeping, and he'll have a better time later on. I think that's why he's getting this 5th headhunter instead of the first grunt early. He's not going to get a 6th headhunter. He's going to get a grunt after this, but he's going to squeeze out 1 more headhunter here. I think that's the reason. I think. I might be wrong. What I'm not wrong about is the fact that Farseer is going to hit level 2. as is the Archmage. And we should have a Grunt coming out pretty soon. What this 5th Headhunter is also going to allow us to do is much more easily creep the shop. Do we have a Grunt coming out? Not yet. Not yet. But soon.
A player's forces are under attack.
See, and this would be doable with 4 Headhunters, but much more easy with 5. So, you know, 5th Headhunter definitely makes sense if we want to go for this creep early. We also have Chain Lightning to ensure that we can get it. This is going to be pretty sick. And he's going to force the TP as well, because the Trappers, for some reason, started attacking the Archmage. So Lin's in a really good position here. It was a difficult early game when his Farseer took so much damage, but Chaemiko also got a little overzealous at that stage, committing too many footmen, and now it's sort of snowballing out of control for him. First Grunt there after the 5th Headhunter. And we got the Spirit Lodge Torn Chieftain, and there's the Bestiary early as well. So very similar. This game, Chaemiko's going for a Mountain King. Why? Probably because he wouldn't be able to get much done with a Panda, because he lost all his footmen. He lost all the health on his Archmage. That's probably why he's going for a Mountain King instead of a Panda. Because he just doesn't simply have the map control to use that early Panda pressure. Bolt to deny, I can only imagine the greater mana into Chain Lightning. Mountain King's gonna live.
Player's forces are under attack.
And soon everything will be up. I'm trying to look at this Troll Regen online. No, it is not yet. And Brute Strength isn't either, so we'll keep an eye on that one when that comes out. Torn Chieftain is out. And now again, we can pressure with the Farseer, creep with the Torn Chieftain. And like we mentioned last game, if you're harassing on level 1 the entire game, you're kind of stuck on level 1. Well, Lin decided to just power creep in the early game and get level 3. Oh, and now he's going to be actually 3.5 when the Torn Chieftain starts his creeping, which is really nice. And he's done it on camps that were all contested as well. 3 camps that were all could have been pressured by Chaemiko. And now he's got all these creep camps available, right, to creep up the Torn Chieftain while pressuring with this level 3 Farseer. Very good position to be in.
Are under attack.
There's the Brute Strength. He's getting Brute Strength. Instead of Troll Regen, he's only got 1 hurt Headhunter. I mean, I think he could get Troll Regen here, but I guess he's only got 1 that's severely hurt. Maybe he's just going to salve this one. If he salves this one, I guess it kind of makes sense. Let's see. But he's not going to, I don't think. Maybe that's too much thought to put into it. I'm overanalyzing. Ensnare, and then Raider, and then Wind Rider. Old Standard, Old Faithful. Illusions or Scouting. Mountain King is creeping as safe as he can. Peon going across. The Farseer is seeing where Chaemiko's creeping right now. So in theory, he could expand, finish creeping this, and then run straight to the base, and he could probably contain Chaemiko. But he's going to go up with his Farseer instead and keep creeping with the Torn Chieftain. And he's got to scout the whole time. He knows there's no shot for the expansion to get cancelled if he built it right now.
A player's forces are under attack.
So just scouting. He's also going to be able to control the shop and get the heal scroll. Was it already purchased? Nope. So he could also get the heal scroll if he has the gold to do it. And if Lin wasn't in such a commanding position here, he could definitely delay this expansion. It'd be no problem. Get it a little bit later. Maybe get it once this first Raider's out. Maybe when the first Wind Rider's out. Hello, Hitman. Or Hit Boy, should I say. And he's just going to keep creeping because there's no real reason for Lin to run across the map and try to contain a Chaemiko that's already sort of containing himself. Right? There's no reason to sort of do the similar play that we saw last game. Because we're in such a good position, the Mountain King is so far away from being able to cancel this that Lin is just happy to even creep past level 3. Because remember, it's not important for him to actually take a fight and just win the fight, even though he could. Could he win the fight right now? Yes, he could run across the map and probably win this fight. Is it important for him to do that? No, it's just important for him to secure this expansion and not allow it to get canceled. So yes, he could run across the map and win. He's creeping past level 3. But all that matters is that Chaemiko is defensive. That's all that matters. And the heal scrolls also available to the CORSAIR, again, because Chaemiko, defensive.
A player's forces are under attack.
This game, no Wind Rider, right? Because we're against rifles. Could probably even get a second Raider, maybe a Kodo here as well. We'll see what he gets. Seems to be going more grunt heavy. But no reason. I mean, Wind Rider's very good against the casters. Not so good, obviously, against the rifles that we're seeing. Hello.
A player's forces are under attack.
And he creeps one more camp because he knows the Mountain King's still creeping the mercenary camp. And now he's going to start pressuring the base. Notice the wolf is scouting this. Wolf is scouting this area to make sure, okay, the army isn't running straight down. The army just scouted this direction. So he knows the army of Chaemiko is somewhere around here at most. It's a best of 5, this is, that we're covering. And he's going to run up. And again, just like we saw on the right side of the base on Tidehunters, he's going to force Chaemiko to be defensive. Or he's going to force Chaemiko to take a bunch of damage if he's not defensive. That's the play. It's
a player's forces are under attack.
It's a, I forget what the word was. Somebody told me it's a chess term where you have no good move, but you have to make a move. It's not checkmate, because checkmate would mean that he just wins off of it. But it forces the human. It's like an ultimatum, but in chess lingo. Zugzwang. Yes, thank you. Although I think it's pronounced differently, right? It's pronounced differently from that. And he forces Chaemiko back. And like we mentioned in the last game, yes, is a Mountain King, so we're going to take more losses than we otherwise would against a Panda. But this is still worth it, because, yeah, we're losing a Grunt, but our expansion's up for free. Expansion's up for free. Peons go across, and we'll probably break upkeep right away. Right away. Right away. Again, similar play. Lin's a little bit slow because he crept that one camp, and maybe a little bit greedy with creeping that. So he actually allows, you imagine if he didn't creep that, and instead he just waited right here. Yes, he wouldn't get that camp, which is why Lin's such a great player. He always ekes out that tiny bit of value. But if he had already been in this position, he would have already been in the base long before Chaemiko got this far on the map. Right? So now Lin's going to counterattack, and he's going to be able to do some damage, but he's not quite in the perfect position to force Chaemiko to, like, town portal back or run back, for instance, right?
A player's forces are under attack. Town is under siege.
But still, the human's going to take more damage than we do as the Orc player here. And notice, this is actually pretty smart from Lin. This is something I realized before. He's not breaking upkeep because he's saying, like, you know, either we trade bases and I win because I'm trading my expansion for his main base, or eventually we're just going to trade town portals. So there's no reason for Lin to break upkeep right now. So he's just banking. If he had broken upkeep, that actually would have been a mistake. So this is pretty smart, given the position. Whereas if Chaemiko had chosen to defend his main base, if he had chosen to defend his main base instead of just attacking the expansion, he probably would have broken upkeep, right? Because then eventually there would have been a fight forced, and Chaemiko would have been very defensive. And all it is for Lin is just, let's get up to 70 supply against 55 and win the game. And now they just trade town portals. And that was a good, like, it was as good of a trade as Chaemiko could hope for. But Lin got the shop, he got a farm, he got the Arcane Sanctum, and he got about, like, 7 peasants. Yes, he killed the expansion, which he needed to do, or he lost this game. But Lin is probably still relatively happy with that trade. And remember, if he hadn't have crept this camp, he probably could have done even more. He probably could have forced Chaemiko to town portal back before Chaemiko even killed the expansion. So there's a little tiny inaccuracy from Lin, maybe you could argue.
player's forces are under attack.
Lin's still banking right now. Chaemiko not really able to bank because he's got to rebuild and he's got to build towers, because if he doesn't build an arcane tower, wolves are just going to kill everything. We notice Lin is going to try to send wolves into the base.
A town is under siege.
Carson's IQ very low. I've never done a test. You know, you always gotta force the fight on the Archmage, right? You always gotta speed scroll. Just speed scroll. Speed scroll for the Archmage, why not? Again, wolves, this is why the human's forced into investing into towers, something the Orc is not forced to invest into. During this fight, Lin re-expanding, right? Is there a world in which Chaemiko could cancel this expansion right now? No. No, there's not. Is there a world in which Lin could lose this fight? Sure, but he has a town portal. Maybe this is getting around town portal time. Maybe. Can't Water Elliot harass economy like wolves can? Yes, but at least in the last game, this game was a little bit more sloppy on both sides. There were some weird things. One thing Lin did last game constantly was he would always send his wolves back to the expansion. And notice he's got also has grunts here right now. So if there was footmen that get split off, militia that get called here, water elemental that gets sent down, invisible, the grunts here are able to defend. And in the last game, the wolves were here able to defend. Right, so he's always got something to stop the expansion from being split harassed while the fight's going on. He makes sure the main army is where he wants it to be, but you can't always ensure that, like, you know, these militia aren't going down here to build towers or something, right? The longer this fight goes on, the better it is for Lin, as long as he doesn't lose everything. So what he's been trying to do throughout this fight is not just trade armies, but make the fight last as long as it possibly can. And then he can town portal, and he can heal up, and then he can go defend the expansion again. So he wanted that. That's why he even sacked the Tauren Chieftain there and town portal out after. He wants the fight to go as long as possible. Chaemiko does a really good play here. He immediately goes and steals the heal scrolls. Excellent from him. I don't think Hitman's jealous of anyone. I don't think Hitman cares about anything. Hey, Kaiser, how's it going? Hello, Kaiser. Now the grunts meet up with the army. Expansion. Pretty safe at this stage because the army is literally right in front of it. And because although the expansion got killed earlier, let's remember the trade was actually in favor of Lin overall because he supply blocked Chaemiko. He killed the shop to deny any more breakers. He killed the Arcane Sanctum to deny any more casters, forcing him to go more rifle heavy, which favors a high-level Tauren Chieftain. He also killed peasants and forced more towers. The lumber is low. The gold is low. Militia were forced. We can check the gold difference in the gold mines. 700 gold difference in the main gold mines. So you might be saying, oh, how did Lin manage to get 10 supply ahead? It's just because the trade for the expansion was favoring Lin. Even though he's not on 2 bases, he's still going to get that supply advantage that he needs overall. That's why I say it was an impossible situation for Chaemiko, given the positioning of Lin in the mid game. And that's how he's won both these games, is just forcing Chaemiko to have no good decision. Do I hit the expansion and take a ton of damage in the main base? Or do I just sit and defend my main base and he's got an expansion and gets ahead in 20 supply? Right? And in this game, I think Chaemiko actually did the best he possibly could, but because Lin has such nice positioning, there's just nothing he really could have done. And now he's down by 12 supply, and the expansion isn't going to be canceled because he's got to fight for it. Could he win this fight? Sure, he could definitely still win this fight. Because Lin doesn't have a heal scroll. He could also be building a shop back here. I think wouldn't be a bad idea, but... That's one thing Chaemiko also did very well this game, is he made sure Lin didn't always have the heal scrolls at least. Lin actually doesn't have a teal, a town portal or a heal salve or a heal scroll or anything like that. A speed scroll, that's what I was trying to think of. That's the item. He doesn't really have any way of like recovering from this fight after he gets out, so if he could run away here, this would be good. But at least his heroes are still high enough hit points to hold this. And he holds the expansion, and GG is gone. Pretty simple, right? Forehead. So that was like kind of a worse version of what Lin did in the first game. I think both players played worse in the early game. Chaemiko played better in the mid game, and Lin played worse in the mid game compared to the first replay. But this is a whole series we're watching. So there were mistakes for sure, but the general idea was still there, right? The early game creeping to level 2, trying to not take a ton of losses, playing very passively. Creeping the Tauren Chieftain as much as you possibly can up until the point your expansion is no longer safe. And when is it not safe? Well, it's all based on the positioning of the main human army. And then you just threaten the creepjack, you threaten the attack into the main base, and this is all just served as a delay tactic to get your expansion up, to get that 10 supply advantage, heal scroll advantage, item advantage, all that stuff. Same idea as the first replay, just a little bit worse of a game overall. So those are the first two replays. I would say those are the most useful. Replay 3, just because we want to watch the whole series, we're going to watch it, but it's going to get a little crazy. But there's definitely some very valuable things to learn in this game. Some very valuable things. It's not going to come into play in a standard game, but it's still going to be very useful. Still going to be very useful. Bro Rush, how you doing, bud? Good to see you. Thanks for the 200 bits. Also, Burning Blaze, what's up, dude? How you doing? Okay, so replay number 3 will be on Amazonia. I believe this is the first game of the series. So Lin's up 2-0. Is he going to get the 3-0 in the best of 5? Yeah, he is. He is. And I would say the first 5 minutes of this game are kind of the most instructive. And then the last 14 minutes of this, I'm going to be struggling to think of something to say. But we'll find something. The first 5 replays is really what you guys should be paying attention to. Did I read Nietzsche? I think when I was in high school. Spoilers, no! Yeah, well. You can go watch this on YouTube with Neo commentating it, in fact, if you want to see this series. Okay, here is game number 3. As you can see, Neo is observing. Woo! So it's on our YouTube. YouTube.com/BackToWarcraft. So, Amazonia, a little bit of a weird map. A little bit of a weird map. Of course, if you want to go for the Farseer Headhunter opener, this is worth mentioning, most often Orc players love to Lightning Shield creep this. How do you Lightning Shield creep this? Well, you need 3 units, or you need 2 units in a shop, right? So you either need to build like a shop, and you have your Farseer here, then a Grunt, or you can have your Farseer and your 2 Wolves. So you can technically get Lightning Shield with just a Farseer on his own, with both the Wolves, or a shop and a Peon, or, you know, a shop and 1 Wolf, with the other one Scouts, whatever. You can do it. The issue is you kind of take too much damage because your Wolves get purged. So you can't actually creep this. Predictions, yeah. You can't actually creep this without a Grunt, or without a Headhunter, but the downside of Farseer Headhunters is you don't actually have your first or second or third Headhunter for quite a while. Your Farseer, in fact, can already run straight across the map by the time your first Headhunter comes out of the barracks. So you need to go for an early Grunt if you want to creep this as the Orc. Whereas on the other maps, we had the luxury of creeping level 2 without changing up our build order. So there is a build order in which you can go for 1 Grunt and then go into Headhunters after that first Grunt. The downside of the build is, though, that you actually end up only having 6 on lumber, and it kind of sucks. It's not very good. You could also go for a straight grunt opener, which is what some Arc players do, but then you're, obviously weaker in the early game because you don't have the Headhunters to pressure, and you're also slower at creeping in the mid game. There's a lot of downsides to opening grunts. So Lin is still going to open Headhunters here, but he's going to take the loss and that he can't actually creep level 2 on this map if he goes for Headhunters. So he's going to be forced into, unlike on the other maps, harassing on level 1. Right? So that's kind of where it comes into play, and you kind of have to weigh your odds. Do I want to open grunts? Do I want to open one grunt and go for the lightning shield creep? Do I want to just go grunt straight up? Or do I want to go for Headhunters and just sacrifice having level 1 against level 2? That's what we're going to end up at. We're going to have level 1. The human's going to have level 2, and that's just going to be the reality we live in if we choose to harass right away on most maps. So Lin's going to do the same opener. Same stuff. This game's going to get crazy, though. This game's going to get real crazy. He's going to build a war mill, right? Yeah, okay. He's just getting a whole lot of lumber before doing it. Just a whole lot of lumber. He will get that barracks, though. Don't you guys worry. He will eventually get it. Chaemiko doing standard as ever. He's gonna build the barracks. Is this a different build order? Maybe I missed something here. I will say I only watched this replay one time before today's episode, so. Okay, he gets the barracks a little bit later, though, right? It's a little bit different. It's interesting. It's interesting. Now, if I was the expert that I claim to be, I would know exactly why he's doing this, but beats me, man. It does just get you a faster tech overall because the peon that's building the barracks obviously could be mining lumber the entire time if he isn't building the barracks, so you get a faster tech, but I don't know. And there's no way it finishes on time, right? Yeah, I don't know. So Farseer you're going to immediately harass. Archmage is going to be level 2, and that's just something Lin knows by default. He's going to be level 2. He just knows that. He accepts that. This is his reality. Oh, it's actually a 1-burrow tech, so that's the point of this build. He's going for a 1-burrow tech, very quick tech, but still able to get Headhunters out around the same time. Downside of this would be if the human decides to run across on level 1 or early level 2 and go for the second burrow cancel, this is possible. To cancel a second burrow on other maps. But on a map like Amazonia, you can pretty much guarantee the human's going to do this creep route, which doesn't give them the ability to necessarily run straight cross map and cancel your second burrow. So the reason why he's doing this is because he knows what Chaemiko's going to do. This wouldn't work on every other map. For instance, it might not work on like an Autumn Leaves. It might not work on a Concealed Hill. Because there's a chance for them to just run across and cancel your second burrow. I don't know exactly what maps they would be able to do that on. I know they can do it on Tidehunters. I know they can do it on Echo Isles. But there's maps where like your burrow could get canceled and it would suck for you.
A player's forces are under attack.
But on this map, it's not going to happen. So we're level 0 experience against level 2. The whole point here is just to put damage on the Archmage as much as possible. When we're immediately harassing like this, that should be our main objective, put damage on the Archmage. Our second priority after that, put damage on the Footman. Our third after that, maybe get Peasant kills if we can. Maybe you could put Peasant kills above Footman damage. But most of all, we want to be pressuring the Archmage to stop him from getting level 3. Okay, now the Headhunters are coming out.
A player's forces are under attack.
And Chaemiko's doing a very good job of defending. He's beginning this early lumber mill. That's something that's kind of new as well, but I like it. I like it. And notice the Headhunters don't even come to meet up with the Farseer until there's at least 2 of them, soon to be a third. Because if there's one Headhunter here, Chaemiko's just going to put damage on it for free, and it's not going to really find much value. So note, the Headhunters are now coming to meet up with the Farseer. But not before the Farseer's done some damage. Now Lin's going to do something here. And this can sometimes make the game a little bit wacky. He noticed there was no tower up, There was no tower up, paired with the fact that Chaemiko left his base to go creep, trying to creep to level 3 as early as possible. So Lin's actually going to go into the main base and pressure, knowing that this tower is not up. If this tower was up, this would be a mistake, but he knew the timing of the tower because he immediately harassed. So he knew when it was being built, he knows that it's only now starting to be upgraded, so he knows that he can actually go in and pressure before the tower's up, or even cancel the tower with these 2 Headhunters. Another reason why Headhunters are very good. But in doing this, he's going to allow Chaemiko to most likely get level 3 for free, which is when this game's going to become very weird. Notice, he's doing this. Look how sick this is from Lin. He's doing this knowing the Archmage is going to get level 3. So he's preemptively getting spiked barricades. He's preemptively getting spiked barricades because he's saying, okay, I know I can do damage because the Arcane Tower, I saw it wasn't up yet. So I know I could do damage, but I know that he's going to creep while I do damage, so he's going to get level 3, he's going to run into my base with Defended Footmen, and I'm going to have to defend against that. What's really good against that? Spiked Barricades. 5 damage per attack plus 20% of the attacker's damage. To a Footman, that's 8 damage per attack. What's 20%? 20% is like 2.5 damage. So it's like 7, 8 damage to every attack of a Footman. Really, really good against Footman Harass. He's preemptively getting it, knowing this is the sort of game we're going to have. He didn't get this, let's remember, in any of the 2 previous games. He didn't get Spike Barricades. This is dope. This is dope. Is it the perfect idea to run into the human's base like this and allow him to get level 3? I don't know if it's the perfect play, but the way the game's going for Lin right now, the fact that he's getting this preemptively, super sick. Super duper sick. Also getting an... no, this isn't an early 3rd burrow. No, it isn't.
A player's forces are under attack.
And because he's got Headhunters instead of Grunts, very easy to cancel this tower. And now we're in Wacky Town. And we might not be able to directly fight the militia here if they were like on top of our Headhunters, but we can kite them all day. Which is why it's just an impossible situation for the human to defend. But it's impossible for both players. It's impossible for the Orc to defend at level 3 Archmage without reinforced defenses. And it's impossible for the human to defend 3-4 Headhunters without an Arcane Tower. Right, so it's very difficult for both players. Which is why the game gets so weird. But look, Spike Barricades is going to be done perfectly on time. The Archmage is level 3. Defend is going to be finished. In fact, it is already. Now, Lin here got a 5th Headhunter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think one mistake, and this is debatable. I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong. I think a mistake here would be for him to get this 5th Headhunter, instead of just getting a Grunt and just leaving the Grunt, knowing, because we already, obviously, we know that he knows because he's getting Spike Barricades and reinforced defenses, and he hasn't even seen the Archmage yet. He just knows the Archmage is running into his base right now. So he's got Spike Barricades, about to get reinforced defenses immediately at tier 2. I think he could also get a Grunt and just leave it in his base to help defend against the Defend Footies. And just do this with 4 Headhunters instead. But who knows? We'll never know. Because he got a 5th Headhunter. Look at this as well. He hasn't seen the Archmage yet. He hasn't seen him. Look at the peons. Look how sick this guy is. Because he knows. He knows what's going on. He knows the timing. He knows the Archmage is going to be level 3 at this stage. He knows he's going to run to his base around the time when his tier 2 is finishing. That's generally when the Archmage can get level 3 at the earliest. And look at this. Peons are going to be surrounding the burrow. All 7 of them. Reinforce is on the way. All Lin has to do is survive until reinforced defenses is done. And as long as he survives that long without losing all of his burrows, all of his peons, and he's still in the base of Chaemiko, Lin has won this game. So he's just got to survive for the, is it 45 seconds? 30 seconds? That reinforced defenses takes, and then the footmen will not be able to do anything because they have spiked barricades as well. That's all he's got to do to win this game.
A player's forces are under attack.
Look at this. Look how sick. Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
A town is under siege.
During all this, he's got 5 Headhunters, and he's continuing to pressure. So they're both going to take a lot of damage, which is why this game's going to get crazy. It's not, you know, it's not like this is easy for Lin to defend, but it's definitely not easy for Chaemiko to defend. He's at the stage where he has to literally evacuate all the peasants and wait until Lin town portal's back. So he's going to call all the militia and run them out of the base forcing Lin to have two options. He can either attack the main until it's dead, or town portal back and just accept the trade that he's already been given. So that's the best play that Chaemiko possibly had, was to just evacuate the 5-6 peasants he has left and force Lin back, right? This is where a grunt would come into handy, because once Lin does town portal back, he's not actually going to have a good way of dealing with the footman. He's only going to have the Farseer, which is why he's going to do something else. Okay, now he's town portaling, because notice the militia are out. He could only just attack buildings now, and when he was attacking buildings, he'd be losing boroughs, so town portal back is the right decision. This is also really cool from Lin. He has sort of two options for his second hero. He could go for a Tauren Chieftain, but if he went for the standard Tauren Chieftain, he would go Shockwave instead of Stomp to deal with these footmen. That would be the standard play. That's something Linguagwa's done quite a bit. He would go Shockwave. But Lin's going to do something even better than that. He's actually getting a Shadowhunter in classic Starbuck style. Right? He's going to get a Shadowhunter. Why is a Shadowhunter good? Well, because when you hex a defended footman, they no longer have defend. So you can actually kill them as though they had no defend, which is why Shadowhunter is even a better choice than Tauren Chieftain in this situation, because we all know this game is going to Weirdo Town, right? Chaemiko's down to like 5 peasants. We're down to like 2 boroughs and no lumber. We're going to Weird Town, so we might as well fully commit to the defense of this footman pressure. And the Shadowhunter is a good way to do it.
A town is under siege.
So town portal back. Reinforced is soon to finish. But if we had like town portal back right now and we didn't have the Shadowhunter on the way, it would be close to, not close to impossible. It'd be very difficult to deal with these footmen with just a Farseer. And a Farseer level 1 at that. But because we have Hex, and we have like 4 or 5 Hexes when the Shadowhunter comes out, we can kill all these footmen easily. And Reinforced is done. Like I said, all we have to do is hold on until Reinforced is done. And we've done that. And like I said, you know, if we hold without taking too many losses by the time Reinforced is done, we've probably won the game. And this is why I said the first 5 minutes of this game is the most interesting, because at this point, Lin's probably won the game. Look how many he has on lumber. 1, 2, 3. He's only lost 1. He lost 1 burrow and 1 peon during that. And he killed, I believe he killed all but 2 lumber peasants, so he killed like 10 peasants. He's killing all the footmen as well. Lin defended this with losing 1 burrow and 1 peon. 1 burrow and 1 peon. So he's in a really good position, but Chaemiko's going to do a great job of attempting to come back in this game now, and that's what that's what's going to play out at this stage. Now we have a Shadowhunter, so you know the obvious thing when we have a Shadowhunter is we don't have a Tauren Chieftain. So we would like to get that Tauren Chieftain eventually, because Shadowhunter simply just does not carry us like the TC would in the late game. So eventually it's just an inevitability that we're going to have to go tier 3 to get that 3rd hero, to get that Tauren Chieftain, so that we have some late game viability, right? Especially if we weren't against an Alchemist, but still, nevertheless, we have to get that. Chaemiko's doing this pressure because if Lin were to just run straight back to the base and Chaemiko wasn't, again, forcing similar to what Lin was doing with the expansion in the last couple games, right? If Chaemiko wasn't in this position, Lin just runs into the base and just kills every peasant over again. So Chaemiko had to continue pressuring right now. Lin lost 2 to 3 peasants, man. Well, 1, 2, 3... 4, 5, 6. He had 7 on lumber before. He has 6 out of 7. He's about to lose 1 more here. He didn't rebuild any peasants, though. Or peons, rather. He only lost 1 peon. Now he's lost 2. Archmage being forced to die. I'll have to do an episode on that, on the Starbucks style. It's very common now, but there's not a lot of replays on it. At least, you know, Chaemiko and Sock defeating it. So yeah, tier 3 is needed because we need a TC, and you know, the position that currently Chaemiko's in is he would be able to cancel like a Spirit Lodge if we were building it, or a Bestiary. So like the only thing that he can't really do anything about is if we go tier 3. Kills the Alchemist as well. So going tier 3 is a safe bet at this stage, especially when there's a bunch of footmen in our base. Right. So this is safe, but still, eventually Lyn is going to get that Spirit Lodge and that Bestiary up to transition into more or less a standard army. Headhunters, Grunts, Kodos, Raiders, Shamans. If there's casters, some Wind Riders. Getting a Shredder, because again, we lost that second peon before going tier 3, and tier 3 is an expensive endeavor lumber-wise, so good to get that Shredder no matter what. And now we're sort of in a game where it's, you know, it's difficult. There's no amount of analysis you could do that could help you know, you know, what to do in these sort of games. It's just weird. It's just experience and being a very good player, which allows players like Chaemiko to not just lose right now, right? Because Chaemiko's actually going to draw this game out for quite a while. And at stages almost win. So there's the Spirit Lodge that we eventually needed. And we'll have a Bestiary soon. Similar to when we have a Tauren Chief, I'm still just going to creep the Shadowhunter up. Get level 3, why not? Shadowhunter levels are still more important than Farseer. Because, of course, Wolves aren't that good if there's Breakers, and Chain Lightning also isn't that good against Breakers, whereas Heal Wave is always effective, Hex is always going to be good to go for the hero kills we saw earlier, so Shadowhunter levels are just still more valuable than Farseer levels. And Lyn's just playing this very well. He knows he killed both heroes, so he's just creeping everything that he possibly can while the heroes are dead, which is the best thing to do. You know, Lyn could have maybe, for instance, pushed into the main base, but then he wouldn't have gotten any creep camps, and maybe he wouldn't have gotten any kills in the main by the time the heroes come back, right? So it's better just for Lyn to creep as much as he possibly can while he knows both heroes are dead. Yeah, they definitely probably are outdated at this point, Janky. That's why I'm doing these sort of episodes now. I'm not sure what strat you guys are talking about, but most likely. I would just assume these shows get out of date within 2 weeks of being out. Still useful for some things, I'm sure, but definitely at a high level of play, these will be out of date quite recently. Both players doing what they can. Chaemiko just power creeping up. Lyn, of course, doesn't want to fight because he's waiting for his tier 3, right? It would be a bad timing for him to fight before he's got his Tauren Chieftain, before he's got the first couple Shaman out, before he's got maybe a Kodo out. It would be bad for him to fight. Despite being so far ahead, you still don't want to fight at anti-timings, right? You want to wait for your tier 3 to kick in, which is why both players are just creeping. Because Chaemiko's so behind and Lyn's waiting for tier 3. That's why we get into just a creeping war, which Lyn gets slightly ahead. He gets, at the end of the day, I think 2 or 3 more camps, because he got both middle camps. They both got an expansion and a mercenary camp, and they both are going to get shops, but I think Lyn ends up getting a red as well. So now first Kodo comes out, we got Shamans out. Again, transitioning into a more or less standard army, with just more Berserkers, instead of the previous heavy grunt army.
A town is under siege.
Chaemiko should have went Panda second. That might have helped him in this game. The Alchemist was a bit of a weird choice. Panda might have actually saved him in this game, based on how it goes, but, you know, hindsight, you never know if he's going to get into this position without going Alchemist. But yeah, Panda probably would have just been better overall at every stage in the game, if that's what Chaemiko went for this game, for sure. So Lyn still wants an expansion, but the fact that he's tier 3 means, you know, he should just get a tiny Great Hall when he can. But that should still be on Lyn's mind, is I need to get a second base.
Forces are under attack.
Both players going to creep red. Okay, so at the end of this, Lin got 2 extra camps. He got both middle camps at the end of the day. They both got the same amount of everything else. But Lin got 2 extra camps and a tech advantage. Out of this early game, we'll also check the gold difference. About a 300 gold difference as well. So those are that's how the advantage is translated from the early game. Is into these things. Because the supplies, if you look at the supplies, it's like, wow, how is Lin not 20 supply ahead with an expansion? Because he did get these advantages at least. Can you purge breakers to slow them, or Magic Immune blocks that? Magic Immune blocks that, but that's why, actually, we have this Orb of Lightning. This is cool. So Lin doesn't have Raiders right now. Am I wrong? He's probably getting them. Yeah, he's getting his first Raider. But against Destroyers and Breakers, most often, if you don't have Raiders and you're playing Headhunters, or Berserkers rather, tier 3, this Orb actually can replace Ensnare. You especially see this against Undead. Against Destroyers, you can purge the Destroyers with this, and then without Ensnare you can kill them. Same with this, works just like that for Breakers, which is pretty cool. That's why he's got the Orb. It's also good for the Water Elementals, but it's mostly to catch Breakers. Upgrade advantage? I don't think he has that. Well, he's got 1-0 against 0-0, but you know, upgrade advantage in the way that he's got Berserkers. He's gonna have Master Shaman soon, not for Bloodlust, of course, but as we can see, it gives him mana, and also gives them more hit points. So it gives them a lot of things. Oh, I gotta let my cat in. One sec. One sec. Come on, then. Oh. Come on. You gotta get off my seat, though. This is my seat. Hey. It's alright. There we go. Jesus. Oh. It wouldn't be an episode of TheoryCraft without my cat making an appearance, right? Alright, you're in the way of my monitor. I guess it's the game's it's not important. It's not important. So he's gonna pressure. Behind this he's gonna pull peons. Because of course
a player's forces are under attack.
He still is thinking I need to get that expansion up. How else am I supposed to solidify a victory if I don't get a 2-base advantage against 1 base? Come on, kitty. There we go, it's okay, it's okay. So now Lin's doing a similar play to what he did on both last Refuge and Tidehunters. The only difference now is he's doing it for towers because he wants to town portal and put up a tiny Great Hall. Wait, yeah, is it actually? Yeah. Yeah, look at that. Wow, Mission Impossible. Look at that. Yeah, we do look the same. It's incredible. Look at us. Look at us. You looking? You looking? Look. Look at us. Look. Look. Okay, she doesn't care. Moving on. So now his whole plan is to use this pressure, not to win a fight. Not to win a fight, of course, but to buy time for the towers to get up so that he can town portal and get a tiny Great Hall. That will be his win condition at this stage in the game now that the map has crept out. What cat? Yeah. So I would be surprised to see Lin commit to a fight here. He'll probably just run away. Notice the purge? Look at that orb. Look at the orb killing the breaker. Incredible. All the while. A malicious scouting it because Chaemiko's an extremely good player and he's aware of what's going on. But there's still, just because you know what's going on, I know this most of all from my ladder games, doesn't mean you can make the right play to counter it. Shop being rebuilt, we need that to make breakers. And Lin just gonna break upkeep. He's breaking upkeep because he can do that and also afford the tiny. Oh, where is it? And also afford the tiny. So he's doing both at the same time, and then he'll be able to have enough gold income to continue to produce units afterwards. And the 2 towers are going to be more than enough for him to be able to hold his expansion. So now all Lin has to do, and it's made more difficult because the map is crept out, right? This is the last creep camp on the map. it's more difficult to force Chaemiko away from his expansion now that there's no creeps to give Chaemiko another option. But all he's got to do is just delay as long as he can, stop Chaemiko from getting a counter expansion, and Lyn has won this game. So delay, delay, delay is all he has to do. It might be about 10 minutes later than you normally delay. Oh, is this still available? Oh, wow. I can't believe this is... I don't think this ever gets crept in this game. There's one more creep camp left. It is a mistake for Lyn to actually fight here, I would say. Because again, like we said on Tidehunters, could Lyn win this fight? Yes. Should he take this fight? There's no reason. He's got 2 towers back of his expansion. He's got a speed scroll to get away. There's no actual reason for him to take this fight. He doesn't gain anything from taking a direct fight right now. Even though he can probably win the fight. There's nothing to be gained here. So that's calls a slight mistake, but still, he kills all these units without really losing anything and then gets away. Which is why Lyn's so good. He gets more value. Because I don't think he lost anything there. Invis could probably save that. There we go. Yeah, sure, he can start the fight, but he definitely shouldn't overcommit to the fight, is my point. And see, this is what happens when we overcommit to the fight and keep fighting. The Torn Chieftain's dead. Slow is kicking in. We don't have a speed scroll. This is a position where a lot of us could just lose this game. This is what happens when we overcommit to a fight, and yes, the initial fight was good, but we don't want to, especially if we don't have a town portal, do these sorts of things. And now, like, imagine, you know, both these towers die. There's a world in which we could still lose this game, which there should be no world in which we can lose this game. Lyn's still gonna win it. Don't worry, he's still gonna win it. But, nobody worry. Nobody worry. Because Chaemiko also doesn't have a town portal, and Chaemiko knows very well he has to break this expansion now or he loses the game. So, he's forced into a corner, literally. And Lyn's going to do it. He's running out of mana. He's got no heal scrolls. So again, it's still risky, because look how much mana this Alchemist has. Yeah, like I said, Chaemiko played this very, very well. Like, it's incredible how he managed to somewhat come back. But these sorts of games are, like, the clearest example of when a player is, like, a top player. Because these sorts of games, you see Moon in these situations all the time, or Infi, or TH, or Lyn, or Chaemiko. And they play these positions as though they've played them 1,000 times. But they've probably never, been in this exact position of a game before. They probably have, to be fair, but not as often as, you know, a standard game. So this is where you truly see just how good these players are. Because you expect perfect play from them in a standard game. You don't expect perfect play from anyone in these sorts of games. And really, Chaemiko did everything he possibly could to try to come back, but he was just too far behind after the early game. And what do you know? Lyn wins 3-0. Congratulations to Lyn. And that concludes today's episode. So that was kind of fun. So I think if you watch, you know, episode 11 and then go and watch this episode, you can see the clear differences in play from March to now. Because these games were played this week. Episode 11 was played in March, of course. And there was some differences. Not a ton of differences, right? It's not as though the entire strategy's been... We're not going mass witch doctors, right? Not every game is mass wind riders. We're not bat-laming humans. But you can see the adjustments that Human has started to make, and those adjustments have forced Orc to play a little bit differently. And then we end up where we are today. And this is ever developing and ever changing. So I'm going to try to keep you guys up to date as much as I can, because it's difficult. When we only get to do one race a month, or, you know, one Orc day a month, one of every race a month at most, you know, and sometimes even one every 2 months, very hard to keep up to date, right? Like, who knows 2 months ago what Orc versus Human looked like? Who knows 2 months ago what Human versus Night Elf looked like? So that's why we try to... Oh, sorry about that. You got timed out. I don't know why. Oh, it was the accent got you timed out on the E or on the U. Sorry, you're untimed out, brother. But thank you, Clastomania. Appreciate you. So that's the difficulty. So that's why maybe we'll have some repeat episodes. This is pretty much a repeat episode of episode 11. You know, it's playing Farseer Hunters against Human. Lynn specifically doing that. But these are the things we got to do to keep up to date with the meta, because the meta really at the top level, the highest level of play, the meta changes like once a week. And it might not always be huge sweeping things that are easily noticeable. Like when Starbuck started going Shadowhunter second, that was really noticeable. It's just little things. Oh, they get 4 Hunters and then a Grunt. Oh, they get a Bestiary before their expansion's up. Oh, they creep level 2 on these maps. Slight changes, but it's important to notice the differences because they're for very specific reasons. That's what today's episode was about. And it was also nice because it was very... I couldn't find anything to cover. Couldn't find anything. Yeah, but yeah, that was fun. Ended up being all right. Thank you, Lynn, for being really good. It's always nice to be able to cover Lynn replays. Yeah, so that's that. If there's any questions, speak now or forever hold your whatever they say. Next week, I think, will be Undead Day. Right? Should be Undead next week, unless I'm misremembering. You can always check the website, backtowarcraft.com, to figure all that stuff out. Will you do a hero tier list? I think I'll leave that up to Remo Demo. His unit tier list was really good, so I think I'll leave that to him. I wouldn't want to steal his content. Yes, please, Undead. Yeah, Undead will either be next episode or the episode after that, so it will be within the next 2 weeks. Nice to have some deeper insight. I love these streams. I love them too because I get to learn. I learn these things as well, right? And you guys sometimes correct me on things, which is really cool, so we get to sort of learn together in a way. Oh, we did a hero tier list as well? Oh, interesting. You know, what could be cool is if I did one without watching his, and then we see how they differ. That could be cool because I scanned through his unit tier list, but I didn't actually see much of it. I think I only remember that he had like headhunters and statues at S tier, which I would obviously put them as well. Seeing as though today was all about headhunters. Live, let's go. Right now, I can't do it right now, unfortunately. I got stuff to do. The name of my cat is Varuna. That's the name of my cat. Got stuff to do today, but maybe I'll plan it for sometime soon. I'll see what the Demo Man thinks of that before I start stealing all his content. But it could be fun. Yeah, maybe I could do that next week for next week's episode. Maybe I'll plan it and get it all together. Yeah, that could be fun. I could do it at the end of next week's episode. If that's something you guys want to see, I could for sure. And speaking of stuff that we'll do this week and next week, we have plenty of streams coming up. In fact, I'm streaming all the way until Monday, so I'll show you guys our website right now. We got a lot of streams coming up. Let me go. I don't want to show anything I shouldn't, but I think this will be all right. Yeah, this is fine. So here is us right now. Woo! And then Friday at 4 a.m. my time or 1 p.m. CEST, we have Smile Cup with Rima Demo Group C, and then I'm back 10 a.m. my time, 7 p.m. CEST for Gold Cup, and then Smile Cup again. DreamHack, Smile Cup, DreamHack, and then after Sunday on Monday, we'll be back with all 3 ESL Cups. So there's literally like 3 streams every day, if not 2. There's a ton of content throughout the week, and it ain't stopping because DreamHack's coming up as well. We're gonna have the open qualifiers, then we're gonna have the closed qualifiers, then we're gonna have the actual tournament. So if you guys are hungry for some Warcraft, man, it's gonna be seemingly never ending throughout the next week or 2. We're gonna be busy bees, as am I, because I'm moving on Tuesday, and I've also got gigs throughout the weekend. So I can't wait. To sleep 4 hours. It should be a great time. And hopefully you guys are waking up for all the tournaments because there'll be some fun games. Especially the Smile Cup is probably going to be banger games. Be nice to see game time visible during the cast. It actually is. If you look at the very top for War 3 Booster, you can actually see the game time right at the 12 o'clock position above the in-game timer. There actually is a timer. Question, are you sponsored? That's a great question. Yeah, we are sponsored by Corsair, !Corsair in the chat. You can use the coupon code on their website, Back to Warcraft, same name as the channel, for 10% off at checkout. !Corsair. Check out the stuff. Support the people that support us. We got headsets like this. We got keyboards, computer parts. We got lights. They got chairs. They got all sorts of stuff. So they got cool hats. You want a shirt or a hat? You can buy your clothes from them. !Corsair in the chat. You can check them out. Support the people that support us. The people that also support us are the patrons. Is it patrons? 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 Patreons? Patreons? !Patreon in the chat. You get a lot of cool stuff. You can get monthly replay reviews. You can get monthly coaching from me and Remo Demo. You get movie recommendations, music recommendations. We do a monthly custom game evening, which should be coming up pretty soon. I got to actually plan that. And you get a cool little shout out at the end of the stream from people like me. And who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want that? And speaking of shout outs, the €500 Golden Goat tier patron, Knubby Quakes, as always, my man. Thank you. The €50 Midas tier patrons. Seen a lot of you guys in chat today, by the way. Shout out to you guys. Toxie, Dondalare, Grinchy, JGats123, Npadroot, Scription, and Teggy, and the €25 Profit tier patrons, Armin VB, Burning Blades, and KMS3D. Shout out to you guys. Thank you. And shout out to you guys, the people watching. Some of you are the patrons. Appreciate you guys. But I appreciate everyone just watching. It was nice. It was a fun day. Fun day. Got 500 viewers, which is cool because, you know, it's not always the most viewed thing, this show on the channel, but I do appreciate we have people that come back week to week to week and people that genuinely enjoy it, which is all I could ever hope for, even if there was just a couple of people. Do appreciate you guys watching. I especially appreciate you guys chatting, talking through it, asking questions, answering questions that I might have. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. And I will see you guys tomorrow for 4 Players Gold Cup number 38. All right? Have a good day. I'm going to go move some furniture. And we'll see you soon. All right? Bye-bye.